What happens when power, arrogance, and nature collide? Picture this: blasting away the side of a mountain just to build your dream mansion, ignoring every warning, every red flag, every voice screaming reason. Now imagine the land fighting back because in California, it always does. This is the story of an HOA president named Karen, who thought warnings were just jealousy, who believed the land was something to conquer, not respect. But when that mountain shifted, it swallowed her mansion whole. The lesson here isn't just about her catastrophic failure. It's about every HOA battling with power, pride, and deadly decisions. California has always been a battleground of contradictions. Dreams clash with reality every single day. Sunshine and tech money paint one picture, but underneath lies a living, breathing landscape that demands respect. Earthquakes tear highways in half. Fires turn neighborhoods into ash. Landslides swallow entire hillsides. All reminders that humans control absolutely nothing here. Karen wasn't just another homeowner chasing the California dream. She held the gavel as HOA president, wielding influence and control over construction permits, landscaping decisions, and neighbor disputes. HOAs are supposed to protect property values and enforce community standards. But in Karen's iron grip, that role transformed into a weapon for her personal empire building. She stared at a rugged mountain slope near her community and saw dollar signs where others saw danger. Why waste perfectly good hillside when you could carve it up for multi-million-dollar mansions with breathtaking views? People screamed warnings at her. Residents begged her to stop. Patrick Long, whose family had called this California soil home for generations, confronted her directly. His words cut through her fantasy. That mountain wasn't empty land waiting for development. It was alive, pulsing with clay soil, shifting sand, fault lines, and a rhythm no human could outsmart. Karen laughed at him. She branded critics as jealous, small-minded, and pathetically unwilling to embrace progress. With HOA backing and investor dollars flowing, she steamrolled forward. To her, this wasn't a risk. This was her golden opportunity. To Patrick and every other voice of reason, it was a ticking time bomb ready to explode. The stage was set for an epic clash between human arrogance and nature's unstoppable fury. Here's where Karen's story turns from ambitious to absolutely insane. As both homeowner and HOA president, she made the most reckless decision imaginable, blasting into the mountain using dynamite. Actual dynamite on a slope that locals knew turned deadly during California's brutal rainy seasons. She called it expansion. The terrified community called it suicide, but Karen held all the power. At HOA meetings, she slammed her gavel down on every objection. Dissent got buried under her steamroller personality and investor promises. The explosions began echoing through the valley like thunder warnings that everyone ignored except her. At first, her gamble looked brilliant. Contractors swarmed the blasted landscape. Steel frameworks climbed toward the sky. Soon Karen's luxury mansion stood gleaming like a monument to her vision, perched on the wounded mountainside like a crown jewel. She threw lavish open houses, bragging shamelessly about her incredible foresight. Property values were destined to skyrocket now that prime real estate had been carved from raw wilderness. Investors smiled and wrote bigger checks. Buyers lined up to witness what determination could accomplish. But the mountain was plotting revenge. Within 2 short years, hairline cracks began spider webbing across the landscape like warning messages written in stone. Patrick spotted them first during his daily walks through hills that had raised his entire family. To him, those fractures weren't innocent settling. They were death sentences carved in earth. Patrick stormed back to Karen, demanding immediate action. Reinforce the slope. Shore up the foundations. Do something before disaster struck. Karen's response was pure venom. She accused Patrick of wanting her magnificent project to fail. She painted him as a bitter old man clinging to outdated fears. Her narrative never wavered. Progress required courage, and cowards like Patrick would never understand visionary leadership. Then California's storms arrived like an army of destruction. Rain hammered the fractured mountainside for weeks. Water poured into every crack, loosening soil that dynamite had already shattered. Months of relentless precipitation built crushing pressure inside the wounded earth. The mountain was loading itself like a massive weapon, and then it fired. The landslide didn't just erase property values. It erased Karen's entire world. The ground opened like a hungry mouth. Walls crumbled like paper. Her symbol of triumph was devoured by the very hillside she had tried to dominate. Neighbors gathered in horrified silence, some burning with fury because they had screamed warnings, others stunned at how completely everything had collapsed. The tragedy became legendary, spreading through HOA communities like wildfire. Homeowners everywhere began asking terrifying questions. Can one leader's ego put entire neighborhoods at risk? What happens when HOAs prioritize profit over safety? And how much will arrogance cost when you're battling land that fights back with geological fury? Here's the devastating truth that every homeowner needs burned into their memory. When power-drunk individuals like HOA presidents ignore expert warnings and community screams, everyone pays the price in blood, sweat, and tears. Karen's downfall wasn't just about her personal mansion sliding into oblivion. The real catastrophe was the explosion of consequences that followed. Lawsuits erupted like volcanoes. Insurance premiums shot through the roof. Trust in the HOA shattered like glass. The entire community was left picking up pieces of Karen's shattered dreams while dealing with the financial and emotional wreckage she left behind. The crushing irony? Every bit of this nightmare was completely preventable. Patrick and other voices of reason had offered practical solutions: reinforce retaining walls, avoid explosive blasting, build responsibly lower on the slope in harmony with how rain and soil actually behave. But Karen wasn't interested in compromise or wisdom. She wanted the view, the prestige, the absolute control, and the ego boost that came with forcing nature to bend to her will. This story exposes a cancer eating away at HOA communities nationwide, boards operating like dictatorships without transparency or accountability. Homeowners trust their elected leaders to protect communities, not gamble with them like poker chips. But when leadership becomes about feeding massive egos instead of responsible stewardship, the entire purpose of HOAs gets corrupted and destroyed. Every homeowner watching this needs to understand: your voice matters, especially when your board doesn't want to hear it. Fight for geological surveys, demand environmental reports, scream for safety audits before risky projects get rubber-stamped by power-hungry leaders. HOAs exist to serve communities, not feed the vanity projects of whoever sits at the head of the table making life and death decisions. When the dust settles, sometimes literally like it did in Karen's case, the question isn't just what she lost. It's whether communities learn enough from her spectacular failure to never let history repeat itself with such devastating consequences. So what lessons can we rip from Karen's spectacular downfall? Her story isn't some isolated incident. Across America, HOAs control billions in collective property values, and decisions made in boardrooms or at kitchen tables can shake entire neighborhoods for decades. The difference between leadership that listens and leadership that bulldozes can literally be the difference between thriving communities and complete disaster. If you're part of an HOA, don't wait for your own Karen moment to explode in your face. Start asking hard questions now. Demand brutal transparency. Fight to ensure budgets flow toward meaningful safety and sustainability projects instead of ego-boosting monuments. Remember that short-term glamour usually leads to long-term nightmares if it's not rooted in genuine respect for the land and people living on it. Patrick's voice echoes a truth that saves lives. Tradition and experience matter more than flashy promises. People who've lived on land the longest understand its hidden patterns better than any quick-fix investor or power-drunk board member. Listening to those seasoned voices might not feel exciting, but it can save entire communities from landslides, both literal and financial. Karen learned her lesson through complete devastation. The mountain always has the final word. But homeowners watching this story unfold don't have to repeat her catastrophic mistakes. You can build strong, safe communities without sacrificing respect for nature or abandoning accountability to power-hungry leaders. The mountain took everything from Karen because she refused to listen, refused to respect, refused to understand that some forces cannot be conquered, only respected. Her mansion became a pile of rubble, but her story can become your shield against similar disasters. If you found this helpful, please hit that like button if you believe communities deserve transparent leadership, and subscribe to HOA Files for more stories where regular folks use clever tactics to reclaim their power from corrupt boards and dangerous decisions. Because this isn't just Karen's cautionary tale. It's a battle cry for every homeowner, every board member, every neighbor. Respect the land, protect the community, and never underestimate the catastrophic cost of ignoring both.